Okay, so welcome. Still waiting for Miss Buki to join us. Let me share screen. Okay, welcome, Miss Buki. So, if a visitor comes in and or a newbie comes and is looking at this code, staring at this code, the person will be saying, all these things that you are writing, all this jargon, what is it all about? Well, congratulations, because by now you know what variable is, and this is a variable name, and you called an element from HTML and store it here. And you can also console.log the variable name that you create. When you console.log, you know what that variable name contains. Then you can decide to add JavaScript methods to it so that you can perform an operation with it, which is what we are doing here. So I said variable delete equals document.getElement by class name btn2. And it's saying that DL is not, the Addevent Listner is not a function. All right, so firstly, let me see. I want to remove this dot from here. Let me see if I get a no. Then I will console.log underneath immediately. Because I'm getting by class name, I want to see if the same thing that applies to ID. Let's see if it doesn't need that thing at all. DL. Save. Okay, so let me share. So one, and then I'm still having this thing. This is it. Okay, I'm getting this HTML button element now. And it's saying del.addEvent listener is not a function. Blah blah blah. That's strange. Not a function. Let me see. Let me change the name and see if variable deleted. Okay. Since I'm changing the name, I have to update this name. So refresh. Share my screen. Refresh. And del is not defined. I don't have del again now. Where is it getting del from? Del is not defined. In 2:23:13. No, there must be an error. Maybe the error is coming from my browser. The error should be coming from my browser because I don't have del again. I don't have del again. So
why are you saying that? Why are you saying that?
I don't know why it's still saying that del is not defined because I've even updated the name. So I'll close the browser. I'll close the browser and relaunch it. Okay. Come in. Okay, so let me share my screen. Get up to the browser. Can you see my browser now?
Yes.
Okay. It's still saying Dell is not. What file is, what is this? Where is it getting Dell from? Oh, I have not saved my work. Anyway, sorry, that's how it is. Sometimes when you're writing code, you hit some variable deleted. Document located by ID btn2. Oh, sorry. This is it. I was considered login Dell here. So
I
sorry.
can't see your screen. I can't see.
Okay. Sorry. Let me share my screen and undo all those things. Okay, so this is it. I was console.login Dell here. This Dell is not defined. And when hopefully maybe, I don't know, I have to start teaching you a little bit about errors so you can know what errors you to deal with. Del is not defined means there is no variable called del. Remember I said that this word should be in a double quote if you have not created the variable name. So it's not defined means there's no variable such as del. Right. So and we've updated the name from del to deleted. So I'm changing this to deleted. Okay, and I'm saving it. Okay, then I'll share it to my browser. Refresh. One, go. Okay, now I'm still having another one. It says type error. Deleted.addevent listener is not a function. No problem. No problem. So I think I know what I'm going to do. It looks like that method of class name, calling by class name for this guy is not giving me what I want. Let me use document, another method because you just need to know how to use different methods. Document dot query selector, query selector. All right, add my dot. So the document of query selector is like document dot get element by ID, but this time
Are you adding dot? Yes.
yes, I'm adding the dot. I'm adding the
Why?
dot because I want the query selector is a search. It will run through all your programs, search, query the document, and then search for BTN. So the dot means the dot notation is for class. It's a class. That's why I'm putting it there. Since I'm not specifying that it's going to get by ID or by class, I'm putting a dot so that it will be able to detect the element as a class. The element we need is a class attribute. So sorry. So it's a class. So that's why I'm putting my dot there. You understand? So I'm using class. I'm using document or query selector. After this one, I'm going to show you another type of query selector, all. That means all class names or all ID that has that particular class name. And I will explain why you need to give some object or HTML elements the same ID, because if you style one of them, any element that is carrying that particular ID name will receive the style. Just as I passed, just as I did to this one, I gave this button ID name of BTN and this one to BTN. So any property, any HTML element that carries this ID will automatically receive that background color and the hover styling that I applied to the button. Okay, so let's go back and test our code. All this trouble that we are facing are like this. They're important, in coding. So know what the problem is coming from. Okay, so it's gone now. All right. So now this is what I've been looking for. That is button. You can see button, and in the button you have BTN and you have BTN too. Right? Okay. So if I click on this now, I should get a response. You see? Delete button clicked. All right. Click OK. So this is operating under the class that we call.
Do you want to delete?
We actually added that one. You know, you can use a text like that. Do you want to delete?
Okay.
Yes, you can add a
To
text.
replace.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly. You are getting the logic. You are getting the logic. That's how we do it. You just put it. Do you want to delete? Do you want all those things? Those are the things that, but
When you put, do you want to delete? Can you still have like an alert saying yes or no? Like, or maybe proceed to delete. Then inside you still have another buttons down, like that will now say yes or no.
okay, yes,
And that one.
that's a good question. That's a very good question. And that is why I'm teaching you. If you look at that video again, when I was explaining about rendering, when you are rendering to the screen, I made mention of .inner HTML, and I also said that the alert box is not a good way to render. We can use it for testing purpose, but it is not a good way. It's inbuilt. We can create something of our own. If we want to render something on the screen like an alert box, we can create it in HTML like a div with a text inside it. Then we'll hide the div. We are going to hide it by default. When we click this button, we'll display the div on the screen. All right. Now, you can also, there's something called stack. If you are placing all elements on the screen, want to display, you know what? I'm going to create one under here now so that when you click on this button, it will show here. Thank God we have a few minutes. Tomorrow is Saturday. I just hope that Mr. Tolu will be able to sleep and rest very well. I know today you went to work. It's not easy. Please, just bear with us, please. Yeah. So let me show you because you need to know how programming works. Okay. So now this is where our button ended, right? I'm going to create a P tag here. No, I'm going to create an H2 tag. H2 because I might decide to get it by tag name. But if I get it by tag name, no other tag should be having H2. But I'm going to put an ID inside it. ID equals okay, message MSG. So inside here we have the text to you want to delete this item. Save. All right. Do you want to delete this item? Now you see this MSG. Now if I save this, let me save this now. I'm going to save it and preview it on the screen for you to see.
I'm not seeing your screen.
Oh yeah, I see. I just discovered I didn't share my screen. Let me go back and share the screen. Okay, so this is what I did. I just created this H2 tag now. In this H2 tag, added MSG as the ID with a text, do you want to delete? That's what I did now. This is what I did. So I want to check it on the browser if it's working. Okay, so refresh. So on, stay here. Okay, so you can see it. Do you want to delete this item? right? So you can see it's displaying here. All right, so you can also put a button, yes or no, right? You can put a button there, yes or no. Let me share my code again and add that button. So do you want to be delete? I can add my button here. Button tag. Yes. Copy. No. Right? Save. Preview in the browser. Refresh. Okay, so we can have now yes, no, yes, no. We are not styling anything. We are not adding any div. We are going to style it. We'll put ID, this. Okay. Yes or no. All right. Now, I'm going to show you the logic and why it is good to use div to wrap an element. You see, these guys are group. The only time you need this element of H2 and button is when you click on the delete button. So by default, you don't want this thing to display on the screen, right? It's not supposed to be showing on the screen. It's supposed to appear when we click on this button. So we need to, first of all, since these elements are together doing the same thing, let's group them. Let's put them in a div, okay? So let's say that we have this. So div and ID, I'll put delete message. All right, I'll save it. All right, so this delete message is an ID that I'm going to style in my CSS. So in my CSS, I'm going to begin with the dots. Then I'll add a background color. Sorry if you're feeling sleepy. Well, I'll soon be through now. This is where I want to stop. This delete button side. This is where I will stop. I'm not going anywhere. So background
But I
color.
have a question.
Okay. Yeah, go
Quick
ahead.
question, man. Yeah, that the two buttons, yes, the yes and no buttons.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, are we not supposed to use the what's that thing called now? That's that listener
List.
to make it work. No, listener. Something listener.
Okay,
I've forgotten
listener.
that name
Yes,
now.
yes, yes. We are going to use listener. That is if we want to add. So yes, we need to add listener now. We'll give the yes an ID, give the no an ID. You see that? So when we do that, we'll
Okay.
add an event listener to those button again. That add event listener click. So if yes, then we will now write a code to remove the element from the screen. So it will wipe off the element from HTML through JavaScript. That's just how it works. You'll be giving element ID like that. But right now, if we want to delete elements from the screen, I think we should have a button that is something that is showing red. Red now. The background color should be red. Then another thing I want to show you, let you know is that the element is supposed to, before we do that, let me save this so you see our screen. Okay. I'm supposed to see the div with a round red color around here. I'm not seeing it. Okay, so let me go back. I must have missed the name. I don't think so because I copied and pasted. Del message, background color red, del MSG, HTML, div ID. Oh, okay, hash symbol. Sorry, hash symbol. This is ID, hash symbol. So CSS. hash symbol. Okay, so share on our screen, refresh. One. Okay, so do you want to delete this item? All right. So now by default, it's supposed to be hidden. It's not supposed to be shown on the screen like this. So I'm going to give you a new CSS trick. Now you are going to set that div. Since the div is holding everything, you are going to set the display to none. You see? You are going to set it to none. So when you do that and you go back to your screen, you won't find that text there again. Refresh. One. So the text is gone, but it's there. It's actually here. You can't see it, but we have to place a command for it to appear when we click on this button. And that's what JavaScript does for you. So to do that, we need to create a style which is called show. Then that means in JavaScript, we will change the styling, the ID style from this to another one. This is it now. Control C, Control V. So I symbol, delete message 2. This one is show. Display block, sorry. Block. Block means show. All right. So when we click, we want to use JavaScript to change the style from delete message to delete message 2. All right. That is just a little technical. I don't expect people to do all these things at the moment. You can't do it, but you can try. But you start with the little things that are very important. Be alerting, try to alert, try to add event listener. Once you get add event listener, you can add this function like this. Then you'll be able to attempt it. All right. So create two style in your CSS. One should be the display should be none, the display should be hide. Then you go back to JavaScript. Your JavaScript, since this is where you are clicking your delete button, then that means you want to add a style to what? To that particular div, all right? But that div is not here, it's not in JavaScript. So we have to call that div first. At the top, let's call that div, all right? So I can say variable, that div is called message. Let's just use MSG again. That's our JavaScript variable name. So we can now get the element documents dot. I want to query directly. I don't want to start using this other class or whatever. Just document or query. Query my document using query selector. Then I open my method. What is the name? What is the name of that div? MSG. Abi is a there MSG. Is it? Huh? Is there MSG?
So there
I can't hear you, man. What did you say?
so there was number 2 there.
Okay, okay. Oh, let me check. Number 2. Okay, that's when we're adding it. The first one is, we'll go with the first one first, that is hidden. Let's just use it to get it because that's the initial variable name. Then now, here, when the delete button is clicked, we can now say that this del MSG, which is MSG now, we will say that dot, okay, there's something I have to do. I have to change it to class. The reason why I have to change it to class is because JavaScript use class to change its items much more than div, and That is the best way to go. This will be a dot. We'll go back to CSS, change this to both of them to dots, dots. Then go to HTML and update that ID to class. Does this sound confusing? This changing ID to class, is it confusing? Please let me know.
Yes.
It's confusing.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And then if you have supposed to, are you supposed to put the dot del message?
No, what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. On Sunday morning, I'll sit down and do a video, explain it gently, quietly, one by one. I'll try this class, I'll do the class, I'll do the ID, I'll do it one by one. You will know how class work, you know how query selector work, you know how get element by ID works. You see them, then I'll use it to do another small mini project that you can understand. This div class, instead of using ID, just put class. Just put class. All right. Then when you go to your CSS, you know if it's ID, you normally use hash symbol. So don't put hash symbol. Be using dots. Ask him what is his name. Told me know this thing. This one is dots. This one is dots because we use class in HTML. Class. Okay. In fact, if you are going to be manipulating anything in sir,
I said in HTML, it's not IDs.
in HTML, we have two major types: ID and class. In HTML, we have two major types: ID and class. Okay, class is more
Okay,
advanced.
they
Yeah,
both achieve the same thing.
is it what?
I said, do they both achieve the same purpose?
Yes, they both achieve the same purpose. But when you get to JavaScript, class has more functionalities. Just like this one we want to do now, I want to change from hide to show. So class will help you to do more. So if you want to do more in JavaScript, use class in your HTML. All right. If you're not going to be manipulating a text or other things, maybe you should just use ID so that you can render it. But I'll advise you to use class. Just type class, be using the dots, get more familiar with the dots. Do more of class than ID. You understand? Use ID to be styling in your CSS. Use class if you want to make sure that you're calling in JavaScript. But when you're calling all these things in JavaScript, I advise you to use the document or query selector. All right. Except for some reason you need to target the ID itself directly. You can do that. But you can see that since we start using document or query selector, we have less error. Okay. It's just a very, very reliable method type. Okay. So we just use document dot query. This is variable msg equals document dot query selector dot del msg. Dot del msg means class. We have really tried to do. Spent enough time. Class msg. So because I'm almost through, it's just one line of code that is left now. So class del msg. That's the class. Once I get this class, everything here is in that class. So in JavaScript, I can remove this class. I can add this class. So class, we're getting the class here. Variable, document or query selector, the del msg. Then I can now say that msg, which is that error div, the div itself, dot JavaScript has something that is tied to class. JavaScript can get a class style. So if you say C L, which is class list, all right, press enter. So class list is like a warehouse of classes. So the class that is associated to this MSG, you can apply. But what happened here is all the classes here in your CSS, this is the class list, all of them. These are all the class lists. You see them, all of them, they are class lists. So if you go back to app.js and you see class list, you can say dots, then it gives you up more options again. All right, what do you want from my class list? Do you want to add something to this class list that you have in JavaScript down here to in CSS down to JavaScript? You say, yes, I want to add a new class list. All right. Okay, but remember, this method that you are applying is going to affect this MSG because we are using the dot to travel through it. Then you now have to type the class list. You are in CSS already, and that is the del MSG2. Del MSG2. That's the class we now want to add. But this function will only run because it's inside this delete.addevent listener button. When we click on it, that is when this MSG will now be updated with a new class list that will be added to it. Should I go ahead and try it? Let me try it. So we hope we don't have any error anywhere, because if you misspell a letter, a word, something might just go wrong. Okay, so right now we don't have any error. So let's click. All right, to say delete button clicked. That's because of the alert. Then now we have our text to say, do you want to delete this item? You see it. So if we add an ID to this one, we'll create a var document or query selector ID, yes. Then we go and add yes.addEvent listener, click, comma, function, delete item, parentheses, open the curly brace, you can now select another method. What do you want to remove? If you click on yes, then maybe this entire item should be removed, or this entire div. If you know the div ID and you copy this div ID to your JavaScript, you will just pull it off and it will disappear, you know. Or if you want to add to cart, you push, adding item to another items. There's a way we do it. So this video, I'm going to send this video to you, because if you replay it, you will get it more clearer because you are in this class. You can, I can send this one tomorrow morning, then prepare the other office so that you can catch up with the class very well. Please, JavaScript is not like HTML. You go through it, you dump it, you come back later. It is no. It's something you just have to play with. Okay, just have to play with. I'll show you little projects that you can do with prompts, alerts. Use them to brush up your skill. So don't forget, this one is to increment number. This one is to blah 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 and blah blah blah. So that's just the thing. Don't forget your practice. I pray and I wish that if you guys can learn and this thing throughout this year, then you can now start switching to data structure and algorithm so that you can get a very, very good job. And what data structure and algorithm do is it helps you to code much better. You understand? It just helps you to know how to code better and helps you to solve problem easily. But you will not be able to understand those things until you get to a little bit intermediate level. You understand? Like myself, I'm not so much in a hurry. I'm in a hurry now. I'm in a hurry now. But before now, I was not in a hurry because I do a lot of things. I teach, I fix systems. I, do so many different lessons, and I have some schools I still go around. So maybe, but now that I'm saying that there's so much money, enough money, uh so and I really want to experience this trend. It took me some time to learn these things. If you keep doing it like this, don't drop it for any reason. Just be touching it gently, gradually, project by project. You go to front end mentor, look at project, the most easiest one, pick it, design it. Just design first. Design, then add one button element, just one, so that button is working. Then you can now say, okay, can I add another button element to it? So by the time I explain the next class, by the time I will have the next class, after that, the next class again will be a different class. So please just practice this one, at least a little, you understand, so that we'll be on the same page. Please. Please, any question?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Though it's not related to what we just did, Sha. It's a personal question.
Okay, sir.
Is coding related to software testing?
Yes, it is. It is, but not too deep. Software testing is not, it's not too deep, yes. But if you go the way, all these things I'm teaching you, software testing is a branch of this coding. If you are good in coding, you can be a good software tester. You understand? And quality,
Okay.
and QA as well. You understand?
What's QA?
That quality assurance team to,
Quality assurance. Okay.
yes, they have it as well. So yeah, you didn't watch this. You are using your phone, right? So if I send a video so that you can watch it on your laptop tomorrow.
Yeah, that's better for me.
I'll send it. So if you play it on your laptop,
All
you
right.
understand. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye bye, sir.